It's just about knowing who they are and talking in their language where they actually are. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Real Marketer Podcast. In today's episode, we sit with Janine Sasso. So Janine was tired of choosing between a career or being a mom and discovered that geographic farming has allowed her to scale her business quickly, mainly with mailer marketing and community events. And now Janine is on a mission to impact more agents with young children to earn their dream income. She is the author of Success with Real Estate Mailers, which is a book that has helped agents from all over the country make more money with direct mail and geographic farming. And on today's episode, Janine will share her proven lead generation tactic that's worked literally for decades, but she'll be sharing it with a modern twist. Janine, how are you doing today?
I am great. That was an amazing intro.
It's not our first rodeo around here, you know? But so the first thing that you mentioned to me when we were kind of booking this is you said you wanted to do a giveaway. So you've got your book. It's helped hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't want to say thousands because I don't know exactly what the number is, but I know it's helped a ton of people make a lot more money with direct mailers. And you generously offered to do a giveaway that one person who's listening to this, not necessarily live, but one person who's listening to this who shares the episode will actually get a free book that you'll sign and send over to them. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm like, let's get your podcast into the hands of agents because what you guys do here is amazing and more people should listen to it. So share this episode on your social, right? Tag the Real Marketer Podcast. And you guys can pick and choose how long this runs. Just, let me know who I get to mail a copy of this one to.
That's awesome. Yeah. So basically, if you share any of the clips or the reels or even the YouTube videos from this podcast, and all you've got to do is just tag me on Instagram, on Facebook, or on YouTube. And then if you tag me and say great episode, and as long as I'm tagged and I can see that you're in there, we'll have a raffle and we'll send one signed copy over to you through Janine. So thank you so much for that. Let's kind of jump right into it. Tell us a little bit about your book.
All right. Well, let's start with the book. The book came together on a campground, actually. I was with my kids sitting on a campground, and I've been answering a lot of the same questions for a lot of people on mailers because they started noticing things that actually work. They're like, what are you doing, right? We all get the question, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I really started sitting down and thought, why not just put it all in a book? I think books are amazing. If you cannot afford mentorship, if you cannot afford training, if you cannot afford anything, get the person's book. People are so proud of the things that they put in their books. It's, the best spot to start for anything. So when I wrote it, I really wanted to go into the details that nobody else was going into, right? I wanted to make sure that these were not just 2020 strategies or 2021 strategies. These are all frameworks for marketing, frameworks that people really can take and tweak. And I know it says mailers on the front, but a lot of these frameworks, go take it, use it on a flyer, use it on a social media campaign. The frameworks work. And that's the amazingness of marketing, right? Once you understand how to package up a framework, you go and use it over and over and over. So that's a little bit about what's in the book. It's not a story about here's me and my life, right? I'm like, I don't think people find this very interesting. I think I have a very boring life to start with. It's just really a manual, much more than anything else.
So there's a few things I really agreed with that you kind of just mentioned there. And I'm not sure I agree with the fact that you have had a boring life, but I'll tell you what I do agree with is, number one, when you mention the fact that books are amazing, the reason I love books is there's a few reasons, but the biggest thing is that it's hard to sell books. And so the only way really that us, let's say, as marketers, as authors, real estate agents, the only way that we would be able to actually sell a book is if we put everything that we have in there without withholding information, right? So the ability to kind of make this thing as absolutely top-notch and professional as possible, that's the only way that we're going to be able to get it out there. So when it comes to, like, let's say lead magnets, there's a little bit of I don't know, I suppose there's some leeway to kind of put something out there, give them just enough, but not the whole form. When it comes to writing a book, you can't withhold any information, because if you do that, you won't sell very many books. So I agree with that 100%. I think that that's really something that's powerful about books, is you know that you're getting everything. And the other thing that you mentioned is about frameworks. So I see this all the time is like, at least what I do is a scale engine. It's a framework because no two businesses are going to look exactly the same. And like scripts, for example, scripts are a bit hard to follow because it doesn't always work. And sometimes it will sound robotic, but frameworks, on the other hand, that's always kind of going to give you that direction. So let's talk about that framework. What is that framework that you're following when it comes to geofarming, when it comes to direct mailers and all of your marketing efforts?
So one of the first frameworks, for example, that I go over is really just the business cycle in itself, right? A lot of agents look at their business. I got my like totally marked up purse copy because I reference things in there all the time. And it's just really trying to help agents understand what is it, how is it working. So one of the first frameworks, for example, is just all about a business in general, right? Like if you look at your real estate business, how does it make the world go round? And for us, I have a 6C cycle for the sales. So we're looking at create, right? First thing you want to do is create awareness of who you even are. If nobody knows you, like what does it matter to the person, right? If you are the best person, you're the best marketer out there, but nobody knows you, there's nothing that you can do with your greatness. So people have to be aware of you, first of all. Capturing the lead, right? That is the next one. Capture the attention, capture the lead. Without a lead, you got nobody to market to. Next up, cultivate that relationship. Converting, obviously, we want to convert them from a lead to a client. Customer experience is next. That's the 5th C, right? You want to make sure they have a great experience, because if you have people and you give them a terrible experience, you're not going to have a lot of people coming back to you. And then the last one, capitalize. So obviously that's the monetary aspect. And then you go and start that cycle over. Awareness, you bring awareness to their next problem. And I don't care what business you're in. For real estate, your house is too small. Here's a list of, the 10 things you can do to make your house feel larger. Number 10, by the way, is to go get a bigger house. Right? Cultivate a relationship. You just want to have this conversation, talk with them. And then converting, yes, you want to have a client, not just a lead that reads your emails and thinks, hey, life is good. And then you want to give them an amazing experience, the customer service aspect, and then capitalize. Now, if you're in retail, hey, you know what? Your fashion is out of style since 1990, so maybe you need to bring awareness to the fact that fashion has changed. And you're going to continue on capture. Hey, here's the 2023 trends for what's trending right now in the fashion industry. Cultivate that. I mean, it's all the same. And that's what I'm saying. The first couple of frameworks in there right off the bat are all applicable to all businesses. You just really need to take it and implement it.
I bet there are some people who are in my program right now who are laughing because they understand how much I resonate with this. Like, this is how I run my business, and this is how I promote every single person that works with me. This is what you have to do. You have to create a framework like this where it's easy to follow. And what's interesting is you're never lost in a sales cycle. You know exactly where someone's up to when it comes to this. So I'm actually going to kind of switch course a little bit in this podcast. And we're in a moment, what we're going to do, I've got a couple more questions for you. In a moment, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through the 6 C's. And I want somebody who's listening to this in the chat to kind of briefly describe who their avatar is, who they actually work with. And then we're going to use you as an example in this episode. And Janine is basically going to walk through her framework following your avatar. So again, anybody listening to this, first come, first serve. The first person to comment in the chat who their avatar is, briefly describe them a little bit. We're going to get a personal coaching session with Janine about what direct mailers could look like in your business. And while you guys are typing this, I'm going to just ask a couple things. First off, you mentioned geofarming, you mentioned sort of events as well. Why geofarming, why events, and what is the correlation between those?
Okay, so there's actually 3 things, right? And what it comes down to, again, we're talking frameworks here. It's just nutty how many frameworks are dictating our decision making. Strongest shape in the universe, right? Triangle. So if you look at the triangle, your 3 components are your market. Who are you serving, right? Those are your people. So if you have the home seller looking to sell a house, that's my market. Now, I can get more specific. Obviously, I can say, hey, maybe it's a person looking to downsize. Maybe it's a person looking to upsize. Maybe it's a person looking to sell off an investment property. Then we're looking at the message. What's the message that they want? One of the examples I give in my field, you cannot talk to a first-time home buyer like you talk to an investor. If I say first-time home buyer, you're going to have an amazing ROI on your property, they're going to be like, what? As opposed to the investor, if I tell them, hey, you're going to have so many happy memories in this house that you're buying for your investment, they're going to be like, what? You really need to make sure your message lines up with your market. And then the third one we're looking at is the medium. And that is, in my case, oftentimes mailers, right? For some people, this will be phone. For some people, this will be social media. My avatar thrives on mailers. So it really is those three components all put together. And for some, it's events. So if I have my market, my geo farm, right? Geographic farming, I can't be anywhere at once. I do not have the budget to outlast everybody that's out there. So geo farming is a great niche to get really locally known. And then from there, we're looking at events. Events are a trust factor in a world of mistrust, right? Online, there's so much stuff going on. People don't trust anybody these days. I just had a conversation this morning actually with my daycare provider. And she's like, I remember a time when I would actually drive the children home from my facility if the bus wasn't running. I would never in 100 years do this now. And I'm like, tell me more. Why not? And she's like, liability.
Yeah.
The trust. And I'm like, that is so interesting how we are becoming so mistrusting. Same field, same person, just a different spot in time.
And you know what's interesting about that? Just any time that there's a challenge like this, there's also a massive opportunity. And by the way, just while I'm talking here, I'm still looking in the chat, waiting for somebody to say who their avatar is so that we can go through it with your actual avatar. But what's interesting about the opportunity when it comes to the lack of trust in the industry is there's such an opportunity to do things different and create that trust, right? So hypothetically, if somebody were to come along and go above and beyond for their clients in ways that other people wouldn't, that will really resonate. So something I saw yesterday that was interesting to me is that a lender had reached out to a realtor who they were an acquaintance from back in the day, and they reached out to kind of reconnect, and then they went out for lunch, and then the realtor was essentially talking on a Facebook group and saying that it's really rude because, number one, we split the bill, and number two is afterwards, the only time that the person ever reaches out to me is to ask if I have any sellers for them, and they're only ever asking, what do you have for me? What do you have for me? And I thought that was really interesting because this lender, to be honest, is actually following up better than most people would. The problem is that the way that they're following up is very me-focused. It's very self-absorbed and very self-centric. And that's, I think, what most people get wrong with follow-up is it's like, you're looking to buy a house, you're looking to sell a house. That's basically all that ever happens. And then they go, follow-up doesn't work. It's not working for me. It's like, well, yeah, because that's how you're going about it. So what I said to this person is, instead of thinking about like how it's so rude of them, which obviously it was, and maybe it's not I don't think it's so rude, but I just don't think it's the best most effective strategy. But think about what you would have liked them to do, and then reverse engineer that to create that exact same thing for your clients. And that, I'm assuming, is basically all about your third C, which is cultivate, right?
Yes, it is. Cultivate to just really start forming the bond, and partially it's personal. There's a lot of things that I share in my follow-up that is personal to some degree. I shared funny story, my story about Thanksgiving of 2022, where I almost poisoned my entire family by accident. Farm fresh eggs, and apparently I wasn't fully aware of how to handle them. Got a lesson on that, but long story short, they got lucky because we figured it out before Thanksgiving because I was about to serve these eggs.
Oh my word.
It's just stories, and these stories are really a glimpse of my personal life of like, I'm not perfect, right? I'm like, I almost, again, got my entire family sick for Thanksgiving. But these stories, like, people remember them. And I bump into people who are like, yeah, well, those eggs, right? And I'm like, yeah, those eggs. I mean, it's the little things, right? Like, just.
That's fascinating. I think that I think in the day of social media, everybody's successful, everybody's a legend, everybody's amazing. And it's like, you're not expecting social media to basically just be the soundboard where people are just opening their hearts and pouring out all of their challenges in their life. But like, there's a way to share vulnerability, It's also, just as it's disingenuous to, let's say, I don't know, to not share everything that's kind of like going on, the struggles of that people are having as they grow in their entrepreneurial journey. It's very disingenuous also to basically just talk about your successes and about how, even when you're talking in past tense about struggles that you faced, it's like nobody talks about it in present tense. And I feel like it doesn't have to be something that's so drastic, but just a very personal, authentic story that you've gone through. Like, for example, the eggs on Thanksgiving. Nothing will connect people like a story, you know? And so when you say that, I think about, I don't know, different things that might have happened to me where I was quote unquote irresponsible with my family or my kids. And it's like, shoot, I probably shouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? And it's just relatable. And I think that that's probably the most important thing when it comes to cultivating an audience. So that being said, let's kind of get into this because Most mentioned her avatar in the chat. So let's just go over who her avatar is. So Gina Garakai is a nurse with 2 kids. She's newly married. She has money saved up and she needs to buy a home and she wants to invest in real estate. So that is Mo's avatar, is Gina Garakai, who is a nurse with 2 kids and she's newly married. She wants to buy a home and invest in real estate. So let's go through the 6 C's. First off, create. How would this avatar fit into your framework?
Well, creating awareness, right? So nurse. Now the question is, are you serving the health industry in general? Is your focus on nurses? Because the awareness part of it, you got to bring that medical field in there, right? This is what they know. This is where they look at and they're like, hey, there's, a red cross or whatever symbol that they are very familiar with of like, this is me, right? Talking to that person in a medical field. And that might be by just using a nurse on your mailer, for example, to get that awareness of, hey, these people know who I am. I am the person, and that goes back to even going deeper on your avatar. I care for others. I put others before I put myself, and oftentimes before I put my family's needs. I mean, think about the nurses who are literally on the clock and they are missing out on a couple things in their kids' life because they're caring for others. These are like some of the most amazing people out there because they care and they put so much of what they do into their work, right? So she's newly married, 2 kids, so she's got a lot going on as well, right? Don't discount the fact that she has a plate full of stuff. Do you think she wants to do the due diligence on finding everything that she needs to do? No. She wants a quick path of getting all the information at her fingertips when she wants it. That might be at 3 o'clock in the morning. That might be at 5 a.m. Doesn't matter because her time is already this small. So if you're telling her, hey, why don't you call me between 9 and 5? She'd be like, I can't call you between 9 and 5. I'm busy. So really understand who is this person, right? So then after we've done that one, we want to obviously capture her as a lead. Now, a great way to do it if she has some money.
I just want to jump into there because I think what you just said was absolutely brilliant, is like recognizing the fact that what Gina needs is not the same thing as what everybody else needs. And all you have to do is recognize who your avatar is again, what they think about it from their perspective. What do they want? And what Gina needs more than anything else is time. And so expecting somebody to call you, book a buyer consultation, she doesn't have time for that. And that's a really great insight, is that time is like this. She's not just looking for the best deal. She's not just looking for a knowledgeable partner. Like maybe that's what she needs, but that's not what she wants. What she wants is more time. And that little insight that you kind of just provided right there, I think, flips the approach on its head and allows you to really focus and gives you that, I guess, the backdrop, the context for what's about to come next is how do you capture the lead by providing what they want.
Right. So if we're capturing her as a lead, obviously the time component that you mentioned needs to be in there, right? Here is how this person went to not knowing what to do to having exactly the proven path in 60 minutes or less, right? Whatever time commitment that you're giving her, like that needs to be in there. At the same time, people also want to make sure that they're getting every perk, every bonus that's out there. So example, did you know that there's also $25,000 in grants for nurses? Don't know. I just made this number up. Please go and do your due diligence and finding out what's available because there's amazing programs available, right? And you can leverage those. Now, my question is, hold on, is she asking for an investment or is she looking for like an investment for herself, like a house, or is she looking for like an investment property, like a rental or whatever?
I think it was an investment. Momi, you can chime in the chat if I'm wrong, but I believe it was to start building a portfolio of investment properties.
Okay, so let's go with that one. If it's not, let me know. But if she's looking to get started, obviously understanding then going back on the time commitment, what does the management look like? How long is it going to take her? Does it make more sense to hire a property management company? So pros and cons might be something that are very helpful for her, and things don't have to be hard. Hey, do you want to know the pros and cons of managing your very own rental portfolio? Here's an entire list with 50 pros and 50 cons. See which ones apply to you and make the decision based on you and your life. Or take the quiz and find out if you should manage, your rental portfolio yourself, or should you hire a property management company. And obviously you can't give them the exact answer, but that's also not the point. The point is to set them up on a path, and then from there we're stepping into 3, cultivate. Now
I just want to dissect each time we go through a C, because there's something else that you mentioned, and it's just brilliant. The quiz. It's funny. You like do this in your sleep. I feel like you just mentioned these brilliant things. The reason that a quiz, I feel like in this case would be so perfect, is because there's nothing that says quick, easy, just get it done and dusted like a quiz. It's in their head. It's like it's 4 questions. It takes no time. I could do this on my coffee break at the hospital, whatever. Quickly go through a quiz, figure out what it is, and in that 3 minutes, let's say that Gina's managed to step away and just take a second for herself. That 3 minutes just started you on your journey with her. But if you were to hypothetically create a whole ebook all about buying your investment property, that's not something that she would have done in that 3 minutes. But a quiz, on the other hand, and now you've got a conversation. Whereas if you didn't recognize that time was of the essence for her, and you didn't kind of present something that allowed her to engage with you without spending a lot of time doing so, that is a lead that you wouldn't have been able to get. So by identifying who you are, the first one, which is creating the avatar, and then by identifying that and capturing the lead, by recognizing everything that makes Gina who she is and what she needs, you've now started a conversation, whereas otherwise you wouldn't have been able to. Brilliant.
Well, thank you, I guess. But again, 1-pages, quizzes, right? Going back on who is your person. Stepping into the third one, cultivating. That is where a lot of your social proof comes in, a lot of your stories. Sometimes also just quickly going into the inbox and saying, I'm in the middle of showings, but I just came across this amazing deal for this and this home. It's a great Airbnb property. It's a great short-term rental. It's a great long-term rental even. So wanted to make sure you see it. Again, remember, this is likely you're not talking to wholesalers here. You're talking to local people. This is where you can really stand out. You don't just have to tell them stories to make friends. You've got to also go in and then say, hey, this is what I got. If you want me to run numbers, just hit reply. I'll have the numbers to you at the end of the day. So again, goes back to time, goes back to really making sure you also know your stuff. Cultivate that so she can see, oh my gosh, I trust this person. If you have pile stories, hey, here is Gina 2. And a year ago, we were able to help Gina 2 get her very first rental under her belt. And here's how she's doing now, right? People love to see, does it work for me? So just cultivating it, making sure that they start building trust in your abilities of actually doing what you claim you do.
Yeah, just want to take a moment and point to the chat here. So Mo said, this is perfect. I have a nurse client now and I've been having trouble getting her availability, and now it makes sense. Exactly, Mo. It's like just recognizing where they're at and meeting them there. So that was in the Facebook group. And then on LinkedIn, we've got David Robbins said, maybe use vital signs quiz, playing on their comfort and familiarity. Yeah, exactly. It's just about knowing who they are and talking in their language where they actually are. And David, I mean, that's exactly the right idea. It's like using the language that they use. I just had another podcast with somebody else where her avatar was 63-year-old Sally Smith, who was kind of getting into the later stages and becoming a senior citizen, essentially, as it were. And I said, the reason that somebody would want to work with you as opposed to, let's say, a young realtor, Sally Smith would want to work with you as opposed to a younger realtor, like a 25-year-old realtor, is you understand, let's say, for example, the physical limitations in their life. And that's not to say that in your email marketing, you're going to be like, I understand that soon you're not going to be able to walk like you used to. Like, you're not saying that, but you're also not showing massive houses with the most unbelievable, I don't know, climbing gyms in it. That's not what Sally Smith is interested in. She's into like local nature hikes and accessibility and different amenities that are close by. So just exactly like you mentioned, David, recognizing who your avatar actually is, the language that's comfortable to them, understanding what their schedule actually looks like, and basing your marketing and your messaging around that will allow you, once you've created that avatar, to then capture them, and then using this language and this understanding of who they are to then go and cultivate them. Which then I guess brings us to your fourth C, which is to convert. So what would that look like?
Right. So the converting part is something where you really have to ask for this conversion, right? So that email, for example, I mentioned earlier, is do not be afraid to ask for that business. You can't just show social proof, social proof, social proof. I mean, there are times when people will email you back and you accidentally converted them. Congratulations, right? But you really need to make sure that this is not an accidental step. So make sure you have ways for people to go onto your calendar. Remember, people want to be in charge. If I say, you know what, I got Thursday at 3 or Fridays at 4, it's like, doesn't work. Don't worry about it. Like, give them a little bit more control. Tell them, hey, here's my Calendly, for example, right? Great tool that's out there to just make it as easy as possible, especially for people with an avatar that don't have time. She wants to book an appointment at 3 o'clock in the morning because she just got off her shift. She's going to be able to book an appointment at 3 o'clock in the morning to, go on your calendar based on your availability. She doesn't have to pick up the phone, call you and be like, hey, when are you available? And we're going to play this silly game of, oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. Everybody's busy. Like, we need to recognize that everybody is so busy. So try to make it as easy as possible. Also, bring them the bacon. Bring them the bacon. What do they come for you? They didn't come for a conversation with you. They don't care about you. I mean, it sounds really sad. I know. I'm like,
it's true.
She came for a reason, which is to build her portfolio. So make sure that you always are serving that need, right?
I saw an ad the other day. It was like a bus stop, and it was all about like an insurance agent, right? And I think the idea was you're going to really love your insurance agent. And it showed like a picture of somebody holding up a photograph of her insurance agent with like a signature on it. And it was like, I don't know, maybe this person, their insurance agent, out for like a drink or something like that. And the line was, you'll really love your insurance agent. And I'm looking at this. I was like, there's a disconnect there between the brief and the creatives and that agency. Like, that's just bad understanding. I mean, maybe I don't understand their demo. Maybe they're looking for a different kind of person. But me, I don't want to be friends with my insurance agent. I want to speak to them when I need to speak to them. I literally, if it was like, if they had an ad that said, we get it, you don't want a friend, you just want it done, we'll help you. Great. That for me, I don't want to, I'm good. I got my friends. You know what I mean? And I feel like kind of what you're talking about is recognize what they actually came to you for. An insurance agent, you're not looking for an insurance agent because you want to be friends with somebody. I think if that's why you're looking for an insurance agent, like, you need to change your social life a little bit. Right? You're looking for an insurance agent because you want to protect your family. So I think that also is like understanding what a conversion actually looks like for them, not being afraid to ask for the business. So I was actually, as you were kind of mentioning about sending the link, I was going to challenge you on something, because you said, instead of saying I have Friday at this time, or let's say Sunday at this time, see, I usually say is present two options and say which one works for you, because it makes it easier for them to say yes or no to that. And as you were kind of talking about it, I thought, well, in the case of a nurse, for example, I could be giving you two options to Timbuktu, and you're never going to be able to find a time that actually works for you. So when it comes to some, like in some cases, I would say Monday morning or Tuesday afternoon, or which works better for you, mornings or afternoons, and present those two options that they can say yes or no, or this or that, make it easier for them. But I think, again, understanding who your avatar is in the case of a nurse, that's just not the game that you want to be playing with them, because they don't have Mondays or afternoons. I don't know what time works better for me. Depends when I'm busy at the hospital. That's really what it is. And I think that goes really down to understanding who you want, who you're actually targeting, and meeting them where they're at, as opposed to just revolving around your own schedule.
Well, and if you want two options, I mean, find one that works for you. Hey, I can do Monday at 3, or here's my calendar. I mean, you can have the best of
Right.
both worlds. There's no, right or wrong on it. I mean, at the end of that's the nice thing with marketing. There's
Yeah.
no right or wrong. It's like you decide what you want to do and you're just gonna go and do it, right? And then it comes down to customer experience, which in terms of a busy nurse, right? Offer them that FaceTime. Tell them, hey, I've actually, got time. If you want, I do a video tour. You can check it out over video first. If it's something that you think might work, then we'll find a time in person. And if you think it doesn't work, no harm done. You watched it during your 5-minute break at work, and we're going to continue on. And it's just really showing them that I understand that they're busy, right? Yes, I want a little bit of a commitment from them as well, but at the same time, your customer service aspect is huge, right? I always find it interesting when people are getting clients and they're like, "Oh, we don't do this here." And I'm like, "So, but if your customer would really benefit from this, you wouldn't go the extra mile." And some just don't. And that's, I mean, I don't get it. I don't. It's for some businesses it works, I guess, to do bare minimum. But if it was me walking into this business, I want an experience. I want to be like, this was amazing, right? So if people think about shows like HGTV and House Hunters, for example, they don't go on there because they end up with a house. They go on there because they get an experience delivered to be on television. They have probably an edge in negotiation, let's be honest on it, because you call the agent and be like, hey, we're on House Hunters. We could make your house famous, right? Tell me that there's not an advantage to it. So
Yeah.
everybody that went on House Hunters during 2020 and 2021, I think those were brilliant buyers, understanding what they can leverage. But you have to really see what comes out of it, which is an episode documenting their experience of purchasing a home. They can buy a house anytime they want, essentially, but it was the experience of what comes out from it as well that makes this such a long-standing show that succeeds.
Yeah. And again, it's the whole first C is create. It underlines everything that's happening here. So how does understanding who your avatar is, in this case Gina, which is a nurse, how does that kind of fit into the customer experience? Well, let's say if you have a program where you help a local, I don't know, health related charity or something like that, where you donate something to someone, or you create something by aligning your narrative and your goals and your I guess mission with theirs. And then once you've done that, again, that customer experience is when you're working with me, you're not like just buying a house. We will also do this, or you'll also be in a position where you can help people do that, or I don't know, whatever that looks like. So in the case of House Hunters, you get to come onto a show, right? So there's a certain demographic that would be into that. I'm not sure if Gina would be into that or not, but I know Gina is the kind of person that wakes up in the morning and goes and helps people and doesn't really care if it's convenient for her. That's the kind of thing that she does. So if you're trying to create an experience for nurses, let's say, to work with them, it's like, what can I do that shows them that I'm the same as you and we're similar? It's like, align yourself with a charity or a local community organization, something like that, to show that this isn't just about buying a house to me. This is about something bigger. And me and you, we share those kind of narratives and that mission. And if we work together, that will kind of be the experience. So this is all sort of taking form right now, and then brings us to the final C, which is capitalize. So what would that look like?
Well, capitalize in terms of, Gina is obviously closing the transaction, and then don't ghost. Because once we are closed on the transaction, we're starting over with Gina. We are not just dropping Gina like a hot potato, because Gina is now in our cycle and she will go through the cycle again. There's nothing better than a person that's gone through the cycle with us, knows what we do, to get that repeat and referral business. And a lot of businesses just look at it and they're like, oh yeah, moving on next, right? And it's like, no, we do not want to move on next. We want to now make sure we close the gap between the last C and the first C, which she's starting over again. Hey, now we got one, now we got all of this set, right? Let's go do it again. And people underestimate the value of this a lot, and they don't spend a lot of time in making sure that this nurture period in between, and it's coming back to mailers right now, is so important. So for example, me, I will nurture my clients along in between these two C's with what I call lead nurture mailers. So if I differentiate between mailers, I have two kind of mailers. I have a lead generation mailer, and then I use a lead nurture mailer. So separating those two, I'm very clear in what mailer goes to what person. Gina, the first time around, she was receiving a lead generation mailer, right? I wanted to just show her, hey, I got your solution. I'm not looking to be friends with her. Going, back to that insurance agent example, I'm not looking to have cocktails with her. I'm looking to solve a problem for her. And then from there, as she goes through the last C in between the next cycle, I want to nurture her to let her know I'm not just there for the money, I'm also there to help. And these lead nurture mailers are a lot more based on here's stuff going on in your area, here is stuff that you will find helpful, again at your fingertips kind of things. Now, can I put it in an email? Sure. How many emails do you guys get? Right? It's ridiculous how many emails we get a day, and we don't even pay attention. There's actually a statistic I just pulled for a class I'm teaching this week, and there are 90 soliciting emails in an inbox a day versus 2.5 pieces of mail. And well, there's also 4 to 10,000 ads a day for the customer. You decide where you want to be. I know I want to be in their mailbox because there is still attention and a lot less competition.
And there's another thing also, is that when it comes to taking, like, bridging the gap from the 6th C, the capitalized, back to create, it becomes exponentially easier. Because let's say with the first one, the first time we needed to go ahead and capture Gina's attention, that was all about giving her a quiz when she's at work, and you need to basically catch her at that exact moment in time. It's not easy to do. There are ways of making it a lot easier. But at the end of the day, it's not the easiest thing to do. When you want to capture her attention, again, you don't need to find her at the exact moment in time and give her some super enticing quiz. You could literally just reach out and be like, hey, Gina, how are you? It's been a minute since we spoke. What's going on with you? How are you enjoying your new home? And you never really had access to that before. And I feel like every time you go through the cycle,
it gets
becomes
faster,
faster and easier. Yeah. Exactly. So I also like when I didn't realize those statistics. So 90 soliciting emails in an inbox every single day, but only you said about
2.5 pieces of mail.
2.5.
I don't know how they came up with 2.5, and that's a 2020 statistic, but 2.5 pieces of mail, I guess it's the average or whatever, and then 90, and I'm sure this number is now higher. I'm sure since 2020, we are now getting more than 90 pieces or 90 emails in our inbox. I know I get a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, I think that as society goes on, like as time goes on, we become more and more, I guess, sentimental about certain mediums, and it's really detrimental to us because we realize like technology is getting more advanced, and we need to kind of embrace the newest technology all the time. And like, yeah, okay, fine, that's fine. But when we take a more holistic approach and a holistic look at marketing, we realize that the medium is not really so important. What really is important is how do we get people's attention and say the message in a way that they'll listen. So if all of a sudden, let's say Bing ads become really valuable because it gets in front of a lot of people, then that's where we need to be. But I think people deciding I need to be on Facebook, I need to be in email, I need to be on direct mail. It's like, no, you need to be where you can cut through the noise and say something in a way that people will listen. And in this case, according to these statistics, like direct mail, it seems to be where it's at because everybody's emailing. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm a big fan of email marketing 100%. I think it's been very profitable, at least for my business. However, it's like there are some quote unquote old fashioned techniques that they just work. And I think when people try to create new marketing strategies, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They shouldn't be creating new strategies. They should be leveraging timeless techniques and leveraging modern technologies for those timeless techniques. Marketing is just marketing, right? Those 6 C's, whether or not you're in 1200s or the 21st century, it doesn't make a difference. You're still working through those same 6 C's that you kind of just laid out for us. It's just the only thing that changes is the medium, right? The technologies.
Absolutely. That's the tactic, right? Strategy stays the same, tactic changes, and people get so hung up on this is what I want to do because TikTok is the thing right now. And again, it's a tactic. I'm like, apply what you have for a strategy onto whatever platform you want, but it's just a tactic. Don't get attached to the tactic. Make sure you have the strategy down.
So where would you say it goes wrong for people when it comes to I don't want to say direct mail exclusively because, like we just mentioned, it's just a medium, the strategy as a whole. But let's talk about the strategy as a whole in the context of this exact medium. Where does it go wrong for people?
WIIFM, right? Is that how it is? Yes. That is where it really goes wrong. And it's in the beginning. What's in it for me?
Oh, there you go. I was trying to figure that out.
I know. I'm like, WIIFM. Yes.
Yeah.
Number one rule in marketing. That's where it goes wrong. Self-centered people wanting results for themselves. And
Yep.
that is just, it's not good business practice. I'm like, especially for us real estate agents, we're looking at serving the public. We're always there to put our or their needs in front of our needs. It's literally in our code of ethics. So that being said, it's like people need to remember that. That's what we're here to do. And if you just simply follow this, I mean, those things are not in there, I think those things are in there because there's really smart people that uncovered this and just didn't say, hey, if you just serve other people, you're going to have a lot of money coming your way.
Yeah.
Right. So they packaged it up a little nicer. But at the core of it, that's where it goes wrong. Here's what I did for, this seller, and I can do the same for you. It's all about I. So the best advice I always give somebody is stop starting your sentences with I. It's not about you.
And I would actually because I'm sure that there's some cynical people who are listening to this be like, that's all very nice and fine to add value to the world. But at the end of the day, how does it actually make me money? And it's like, well, think about, for example, the lender that I mentioned earlier on this call. The lender who was just emailing saying, do you have any sellers for me? Do you have any sellers for me? This realtor got so frustrated with it that she went onto a Facebook group and said, what the heck am I, why, how do I even respond to this? It was an old acquaintance. I don't really just want to tell him to go away, but basically, can you just leave me alone a little bit? And if we reverse engineer that, so you, let's say, as a cynical realtor, whoever's listening to this and thinking, I understand, add value, but what does that actually do for me? Well, here, I'll tell you. If that lender, instead of just saying, do you have any sellers for me, would take the approach of, hey, is there anything I can help you with? Hey, I just came across this new program. I think it will be really good for you to kind of present it to some of your buyers. I think that they would really appreciate this. Then that realtor would take that, be like, oh, that is awesome. Present it to some of their buyers and be like, yeah, this person just sent it to me. Here, I'll give you that person's number. And so now the realtor's just being like, can you just stop emailing me, leave me alone? But if the approach would have been, how do I get you more business and how do I get you as much business as possible? The first response by the realtor would have been, that's amazing. Let me bring you along for the ride. And that's really what happens as well. So if I'm creating an email marketing campaign, in this case for Gina, showing her how she can build her investment portfolio, right? And I just present information, show her what's available to her. Everybody else is saying, use me as a realtor, use me, use me, use me. And she just, it's in one ear and out the other, if it even goes in the first ear. And then Mo comes along and says, here is a short quiz. I'm going to give you the exact strategy that you should be using. It's only going to take 3 minutes. I'll send it to your inbox. Read it whenever you want. Great. She gets it. You're not actively asking for business at any point in time. But now Gina reads this and she goes, hey, I could actually do this. Who do you think she's calling to execute this strategy with? She's not calling the 90 people that have been emailing her every single day saying, please use me, please use me, please use me. She's going to use Mo because Mo's the only one that actually started the conversation in the way that Gina wanted to listen to it. So this is absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love this. Let's ask then, what do you do from a direct mailer perspective when it comes to geographic farming? How do you add that value via postcard, via magazine, whatever you're sending to their house? How does this look from a direct mail perspective?
So if you're looking at, obviously knowing who my avatar is, I want to make sure I give them exactly what they want. So I differentiate between 3 calls of action on a mailer. The hardest one that's out there, call me. Yet it's the one that everybody does. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. And I don't know if it's just because I'm an introverted person in nature. I am much rather behind a computer or, reading a book curled up on a blanket. But really understanding a call to action for an appointment, that's hard. Why are you guys making it so hard on yourselves, right? The next one that's a little easier, but still not super easy, is getting registrations for events, anything like that, especially with tools like Zoom. You have so much opportunity. I mean, you can have a webinar run on autopilot if you want it, right? Getting those event registrations, and that's why events and geographic farming work together so well. And then the easiest one is just lead generation. Lead generation. And that is coming back down to, who's your avatar? So for Gina, if you have an area filled with nurses, then you probably want to put on there, hey, our 3-minute quiz is designed for healthcare providers. And get that picture of a nurse on there. But it's really all super simple once you start seeing all these frameworks lining up. And number one call to action, I always get asked, what's the best one to put on there? Well, again, I'm not looking for Gina, right? I'm looking for sellers. The number one call to action is, hey, what's my house worth? People want to know. They don't want to know how many billions of real estate you sold. They don't care. They want to know what they want to know. The number one thing being, how much is my home worth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's the same strategy. Again, it's just on a different medium. It's where is your value that you want and how can I provide it to you via mail? That's really it.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, Janine, let me ask this then. If somebody wants to get in touch with you and if somebody wants to go ahead and purchase your book, Success with Real Estate Mailers, where can they find you and where can they find your book?
So book is on Amazon, but remember, share this episode. Make sure that your friend gets some goodness out of it, because Oliver, you've been asking amazing questions. And honestly, I'm going to go back and listen to a bunch of your other podcasts too, because I think there's a lot of them I missed. But share this episode, get a free one for somebody, whoever Oliver picks. And then it's on Amazon. We just came out with the 2.0 version. So that one actually has some mailer graphics in there as well. It was my only 2-star review. Everybody else was like 5 stars on this, but there was one person who was like 2 stars, and I'm like reading, she's like, there's no graphics, and I'm like, honestly, best 2-star review ever. I love when people are constructive, right? And I'm like, she's right, I'm gonna make it better. So we just released it a week ago, and it is got graphics, it got more resources, it's expanded. So you guys are lucky to get the new one. Actually, I have people that got the first one. They're like, I'm ordering the new one. I don't care. I have the original one. I want another one. I'm like,
yeah,
awesome.
With pictures, are there mazes and Sudoku and activities in this one, or just the pictures?
Right. No, there's all the postcard, because I always get asked, I'm like, can you show me some examples? So I'm like, there's like 30 examples in there of just eye-catching mailers, and again, tweak it to what you want, right? So there's that. My website is the Hyperlocal Agent, which is the training company that I own for real estate agents. So if anybody has questions on geofarming, there's like a free workshop on there of picking a profitable geographic farm. Believe it or not, there's a right way and a wrong way. And other than that, I'm an open book. I'm like, you find me on Facebook. You don't really find me on Instagram. I'm really still trying to wrap my head around this platform that's all, beautiful things, because and I'm like, my life is sometimes a hot mess. I'm a mom to 2 little kids, right? I can't just post these beautiful creations with happy, smiley faces on breakfast. And I'm like, no. So, but anyhow, Facebook is probably the best way. Email, the Hyperlocal Agent. So many ways. Google, right? There's Google.
Yeah. Let me just kind of jump in here. I'm not sure if are you also a real estate coach?
I'm a real estate trainer. I don't think I can coach people, but yes, I help people on that level.
Sorry, I'm just going to have to jump in here, and we just spent almost an hour together. You can absolutely coach people. Absolutely, you can coach people. I'm telling you, this is what I do, and I know I'm 100% certain that you can. But if you ever did want to get into, you're in training or coaching or whatever, I think a really great lead magnet for you could be, again, you've got your book, and then you can have a link with all of the examples that you've used in case studies and stuff like that. And then all they got to do is just go to that link, give you their information. And then that's a great way for you to start generating potential real estate coaching clients as well. But anyway, putting that aside, go ahead, definitely purchase this book. This has been an absolute jam-packed 45 minutes or so with so much fantastic content. Thank you, Mo, for putting your avatar into the chat. Thank you, everybody, for contributing. And we will see you on the next episode of the Real Marketer Podcast.